Okay, good morning. It is the day after the college football rankings came out for the playoffs after the regular season. Of course, these are still not set in stone. You've got the conference championships that can change some seeding. It could potentially take one out, put one in, things like that. And there was a lot of reaction last night to when these rankings came out. Not really because they just got it so bad with all these teams. For the most part, everybody's ranked where they probably should be, but there's a couple oddballs. You got the top five that seems pretty good with Oregon and Texas and Penn State. And, there's still questions out on what type of Penn State team this is going to be. We're about to start to really learn a lot about Penn State, but the top five seems legit, rounded out by Georgia. And, of course, Notre Dame. But then you got where people start scratching their heads. Ohio State, who just got embarrassed on their home field to their rival, Michigan, who, may I remind you, has 5 losses. They drop 5 spots, or 4. I think it's 4 or 5 spots. 4 spots. They drop 4 spots. When the week before, when Indiana, an undefeated Indiana team, loses to Ohio State, a top 3 ranked team in the nation, they drop 5. So Indiana can drop 5, but Ohio State, who loses to a 5-loss team, can drop 4. This is where a lot of people's got an issue, and I can understand this. I can definitely understand. I don't think they should be dropped out of the college football playoffs. For anybody who's asking for that, you just clearly don't like Ohio State. But only dropping 4 when Indiana dropped 5, that's questionable to me. And I know there's a lot of people out there who wants to talk about Indiana's schedule, rightfully so. Indiana doesn't have the strongest schedule, of course. They're way back there. But at some point, you do have to give them props for doing what they're supposed to do. They just beat Purdue, and I know Purdue is bad, but it's their rival. They just beat Purdue 66-0. They have an average winning margin of over 30 points versus all their other opponents that they've beaten this year. I know it did not go well for them against Ohio State. I still think they deserve to be in the college football playoffs. But they dropped 5 spots for losing Ohio State, which should be a very respectable loss. But then Ohio State loses to a very bad Michigan team, and they only drop 4. I definitely think there's something wrong with that. Then you got Tennessee, SMU, Indiana, Boise State, rounding out the top 10. Of course, SMU and Boise State could finish higher in the playoff poll due to winning the conference championships. That's where all these conference championships, they matter, and they can tweak all of the standings, things like that. So now we're really looking at, which is where everybody was looking, 11 through 14. Who's the last 2 in and who is the last 2 out? And the last 2 in comes in at Alabama at number 11, Arizona State at number 12. Then the first 2 out, you have the University of Miami, who just took a bad loss at the end of the year. Ole Miss, who Lane Kiffin is really trying to play his cards on why they should be in the college football playoffs. I don't think anybody's listening. And then, of course, South Carolina, who, South Carolina has a leg to stand on with how they finish this year. When you talk about what an at-large bid is, it's really how they finished the year, and that they're now one of the best teams out there, not considering how they started the year. It's an at-large bid. I thought they have a pretty good argument, especially when you're talking about against Alabama. I know Alabama has the head-to-head victory, but I think South Carolina has been stronger going down the stretch than Alabama. The biggest one is Alabama. Everybody's talking about how can Alabama be in a 3-loss Alabama team. They lost to Vanderbilt, Tennessee, and then they got smoked by Oklahoma on the road, which was really damaging when you think about how they lost that game. Supposed to be damaging. But I guess this all comes down to the name of Alabama, which is why they are still in this thing. I don't know. I want to hear from you guys. Should a 3-loss Alabama team be in over a 2-loss Miami team? Should they be in over a 3-loss South Carolina team or a 3-loss Ole Miss team? I think it's probably hard to argue for those. But here's the real big dilemma. What if Clemson upsets SMU in the conference championship? Clemson's now in. What do you do with SMU? Are you kicking them out after a great year that they've done? You putting Alabama in over SMU just because they lose an extra game of the year in their conference championship game that you couldn't make? This is where there's a lot going on, still a lot of moving pieces going around. If Clemson somehow gets in, does that bump SMU down and then bumps Alabama completely out? Huge question. So here's the biggest takeaway. I feel like there was a narrative out there that said the college football playoffs expanding to 12 teams was going to hurt college football, and it was gonna water down the regular season. The regular season wasn't going to matter, things like that. Man, those people who have taken that stance have been so wrong, because it has made the regular season even more important today. And here's the thing. The last two in, the last two out is always going to be a great debate. Doesn't matter if you have a 4-team playoff, an 8-team playoff, a 12-team playoff, or a 64-team playoff. You're always going to be talking about who's in, who's out, and that's really good for the sport of football, college football. So pros too. So let me know what you guys think about this in the comments section below. Are you furious? Are you not happy? Or do you feel pretty content where the college football playoffs stand today? Still some pieces to work out with the conference championships. But I think the college football playoff this year is going to be pretty electric when you're talking about these first-round games going to be held at these home stadiums. It's going to be pretty neat. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. As always, hit that like button, subscribe. It's free. Join this team. That way you stay up to date with the news and the film breakdowns that we have on this channel. And as always, stay humble, stay kind. Have a good day. Peace.